As this horrific supernatural tale begins, we see a woman named Claire seated in a wheelchair while staring out the window at a hospital. Moments later, her doctor, James Leffler, enters and inquires as to how she is doing. Claire answers enthusiastically, saying she feels better and has slept well after a long time. She's then released from the institution and comes home to her family. Now, while Claire is spending time with her son, Alex, her husband, appears to be worried and reminds her to take her medication. Claire, on the other hand, assures him that she is fine and that he should not worry about her. That evening, after having dinner, Claire is sitting on the couch watching television while her husband sleeps next to her. She suddenly hears the sound of a creaking door from above and decides to investigate. However, a few moments later, we see her hanging herself with no clear explanation. The scene then shifts to many years later when Claire's son Alex has grown up and is attending a prestigious English university. Later in his science class, Professor Powell gives a lecture about human consciousness and out-of-body experiences. He states that humans live in a larger dimension reality than other animals given their larger mental capacity, but he says there could be an even larger existence that human beings cannot perceive. Professor Powell claims that there are several ways to achieve this, including psychedelic substances, near-death experiences, and more extreme astral projection. When a student named Ben wonders if humans can glimpse into the astral world with heightened consciousness, the professor claims there is evidence to back it up. After the lecture, Alex expresses interest in the concept and wants to conduct more research. However, Ben believes that astral projection is nothing more than a fairy tale and is not real. Afterward, Alex visits the library and reads several books on astral projection. Soon, a girl named Alyssa arrives, and she appears to have a crush on him. She invites him to hang out with their friends that evening, but Alex tells her about the books he's planning to read and rejects her invitation. That evening, we see Alex sleeping in bed trying to achieve astral projection. And the very next morning, Alex goes to university and tells his friends that he tried astral projection, but it was pointless. Alyssa warns her that he shouldn't engage in that because it could be dangerous. His other friends, however, mock him about it and argue that it's not real. After that, one of his friends named Jordan advises him that if he wants to do it correctly, he should consult the expert, aka Professor Powell, who told them about it. Sometime later, Alex visits Professor Powell and says he tried astral projection, but it was useless and that he wants to learn more about it. When the professor asks why he's interested in this, Alex says he wants to gain a better practical grasp of spirit since they're studying human awareness. After that, the professor gives him more information on the topic, and when Alex asks if it's possible to contact dead people using this, the professor says that it is. The professor also recommends an author named Michelle Collins who has written a book about religious spirituality and the ability of humans to connect with it. He then instructs Alex on how he accomplished astral projections step by step, and Alex notes each of them. In the next scene, Alex's friends invite him to a house party, but he declines them. But he soon receives a phone call from his father and walks away, while Alyssa follows him. It turns out that Alex has recently found out that her mother took her own life, and he is outraged at his father for keeping this information from him until now. His father tries to reason with him, explaining that he was just a child and it was a lot to take in, but Alex yells at him and hangs up the phone in outrage. Meanwhile, Alyssa, who was listening to his conversation, quickly runs away to avoid being spotted. We then see a flashback scene of Alex's father sharing the news with him, and a frustrated Alex expresses his feelings of being left out of everything that they went through. That evening, Alex does more internet research on astral projection, whereas we see Alyssa enjoying and having fun at a party. She tries to reach Alex, but he is so preoccupied with his reading that he ignores her call. However, Alyssa decides to leave a voicemail for him, inviting him to the party if he changes his mind. Later, another flashback shows Alex's father handing over his mother's stuff to him. He discovers his mother's pendant there and keeps it for himself. In the present, Alex lies in bed in a comfortable position, recalling what the professor taught him. The goal is to mislead the brain into believing that the body is drowning. which initiates bodily paralysis, which is a state between wakefulness and sleep. When this occurs, one can disconnect from their paralyzed physical body while narrating verses like, "I am at total peace, I am connected to all that exists, and I am empowered to travel wherever I go." The scene then shifts to the following morning as Alex wakes up and leaves for university. He meets with his friends and claims that he saw himself out of his body the night before and has perfected astral projection. However, Alyssa corrects him, stating that nothing can be perfected overnight, and his friends do not believe him. As a result, Ben requests that Alex film it to see if he can actually move something in the room, so they decide to use a weighted pendulum that night. Afterward in the library, Alyssa discusses with her friend how Alex has been distant from her in recent days. Her friend suggests that Alyssa stop fooling around and express her feelings for him. However, Alyssa is afraid to do so, claiming that Alex is dealing with personal issues in his family and that she does not want to worry him. She then reveals the phone conversation she overheard and how Alex's mother's death has greatly affected him, possibly explaining why he's obsessed with astral projection. That night, Alex activates the webcam and hangs a pendulum in his room. Moments after he goes to bed, we see the pendulum start to swing. Following that, he continues to move around strangely in his sleep, and the pendulum swings very vigorously as time passes. The next morning, Alex shows his friends the recorded footage, and they are startled to watch the pendulum swing. They claim it's due to the wind, but Alex is confident he closed all of the windows before going to bed. He claims that he was out of his body when he touched the pendulum, and as they continue to watch the recording, they notice the pendulum moving rapidly. Alex is taken aback because he claims to have fallen asleep at the time and only touched the pendulum once. That night, Alex tries astral projection once more. When he looks at the video the next morning, he's surprised to see the pendulum moving strongly even though he hasn't touched it. He realizes that the rope and the lamp in the room are both swaying violently. Moments later, Alex detects a shadow in the room and becomes confused about what is going on. Later, Alex conducts some internet research on the shadows and comes up with a specialist named Dr. James Leffler, who happens to be his mother's doctor. He then sends a message to Dr. Leffler stating that he tried astral projection and has now encountered one of these shadow people and asks what he should do next. In the next scene, Jordan turns off the light in the living room to go to bed. Just then, he spots a shadow in the room, but as soon as he turns on the light, the shadow vanishes, leaving him terrified. The next morning, Jordan informs Ben and Alex that he noticed something standing in the living room. Ben mocks him for this, calling him delusional, but Alex becomes concerned. Later, he checks his computer to see if he has received a reply from Dr. Leffler. As expected, he gets a message from the doctor telling him to stop astral projection right away, since it's very harmful. Alex then sends another message stating that he has stopped it now, but he is still experiencing activities and that his roommates are now seeing things as well. Afterward, around midnight, Alex awakens to the sound of whispers and people talking in the kitchen. He figures that his friends are still up, so he goes to confront them, but when he turns on the lights, he finds no one there. The next day, Alex goes to see Dr. Leffler and tells him everything that has happened to him in the last few days. Dr. Leffler says he doesn't generally meet people this quickly, but Alex's case is unusual. Alex gets confused and wonders what he means. Just then, Dr. Leffler notices his pendant and mentions that he once saw it years ago, which belonged to his old patient, Claire. Hearing this, Alex becomes enraged at the doctor, claiming that he was the reason his mother was discharged early and took her own life. Dr. Leffler tries to justify himself by saying that he did not anticipate his mother's death, and that he now understands much more than he did at the time. However, Alex becomes even more angry and storms out of the room, insisting he doesn't require any help. Later, while walking around the university, Alex observes a shadow and becomes alarmed, but the shadow quickly turns into a human. Later in the library, he once again sees a shadow person with horns for a brief moment, and with this, Alex becomes more and more paranoid. Following that, we see Dr. Leffler in his office, who turns off the lamp and notices a shadowy figure as well. But when he switches it back on, the figure has vanished. That evening, Alex hears murmurs in his room again, and when he goes to investigate, he finds Alyssa there. They then sit together and Alyssa expresses her feelings for him, leading to a romantic kiss. Alex then shares his point of view, claiming he likes her as well, but is worried about losing their friendship, but Alyssa assures him that this will not happen. In the next scene, Alex wakes up in the bed alongside Alyssa. Soon after, a shadow appears behind him, dragging Alyssa out of bed. She becomes terrified by this incident, and Alex informs her that there is some unusual presence in the room. The next day, Alex returns to Dr. Leffler's office and apologizes for his behavior. He claims that his father only recently told him what had happened, which is why he is still in shock. He then describes how the situation is getting worse and seeks help from the doctor, but the doctor responds that if this is a spiritual issue, he's unsure how to deal with it. He claims that Alex's astral projection attempt may have opened a gateway that was meant to be closed, so Leffler advises Alex to call an expert named Michelle Collins and seek her help immediately. Later, Alex searches for Michelle on the internet to set up an appointment with her. Afterward, he and Alyssa go to meet her, and it turns out that Michelle is proficient in various mystical practices. She hands Alex a deck of tarot cards to shuffle, and once he does, she sets 3 cards face down on the table. Michelle turns the first 2 over and says that they represent abandonment, sacrifice, and a dramatic change in life. But when she flips the 3rd card, she becomes frightened and claims that Alex brought some evil spirits with him. She then requests that they depart immediately, but Alex insists on her help, and when Alyssa tries to leave with Alex, the door suddenly closes by itself. Now Michelle informs them that she has never seen anything like this before, and that the credits reflect a dark time in his life. She claims that the spirits have surrounded them, looking for a way in, and that they have no choice except to expel them. Michelle claims to see shadows, and one of them is immensely powerful, and only craves devastation. Therefore, they must discover its weakness. After that, she asks Alex if he's tried astral projection, and he claims he has in order to find his mother. Hearing this, Michelle tells him that his mother is not present here, but that something else is present to break him down. Now, to deal with this issue, Michelle requests that Alex perform another astral projection. Initially, Alex tries to reject it, claiming that all this negativity entered into his life due to astral projection, but Michelle encourages him to overcome his fears anyway. She then lights a candle and tells him to look into it, after which he loses consciousness. Then she uncovers the Ouija board on the table and begins commanding the spirit to reveal its name. Seconds later, the dark being soon appears behind Alex, but they cannot see him. Now Michelle tells Alex to ask for its name, and the device on the Ouija table begins to move to different letters. It spells out Amaimon, and Michelle is shocked to see this. She requests that Alex stop his astral projection immediately, but he begins speaking demonically. Witnessing this, Michelle tries to recite a prayer, but Alex continues to laugh, making matters more scary. Before they can do anything, Alex jumps on Alyssa and begins choking her on the floor. However, Michelle chants some more prayers, causing Alex to revert to his normal form, indicating the darkness leaving his body. They then hug each other as the devil is finally beaten once and for all. In the next scene, Alex pays a visit to his father and introduces him to Alyssa. While inside, they look at Alex's childhood drawings, and Alex is troubled by one drawing in particular. We then see a flashback of when his mother goes upstairs, where a little Alex is drawing his family, while a large shadow figure is standing beside him. Make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thank you for watching.